For 5 days, I'm writing my novel by hand. No keyboard, no delete key, and no idea how many words I've written until I type it up. Which feels really strange because the first time someone suggested this to me, my brain just said, no. Nope, not happening, can't do it, I don't write by hand. And yet here we are. So, some context. In June, I lost about 10,000 words of this book that I'm writing to a sync error. Yeah, it was frustrating, it was heartbreaking, and just someone who was watching suggested that I write the book by hand instead because paper can't fail to sync, and every part of me just thought, nah, nope, not for me. And that reaction came faster than I'd normally turn down any idea. So it took me a while to be willing to give this a second thought. In general, I type way faster than I handwrite. I've built this entire practice around getting words down in this program in Scrivener that I feel is like the home for my writing. And then the idea of me writing a book by hand, I don't know, I don't picture a novel, I just picture journal entries or something just loose and shapeless and formless with the wrong voice and the wrong sort of level of seriousness. And I feel like it's going to be something that I'm going to end up throwing away, that it's not just going to be a slower process, but a worse process. But then recently I was writing alongside another writer, and it turned out that she drafts her whole first manuscript by hand on loose sheets of paper, and she just lets them pile up. And when the pile gets big enough, she puts them in order and types them up. And that no that I felt so certainly and so confidently about just started to feel a bit less like a conclusion and more like a guess, like an assumption. And what I like doing is challenging these thoughts, challenging these presumptions. I've run 8 experiments so far doing exactly that. I took on Sanderson's schedule, Le Guin's 5-hour mornings, I took on King's word count and Schwab's sprint, Jemison's window, and I did a 12-hour lock-in in this room. I wrote in 9 different locations, I did 10 days of accountability, and just every single one of these experiments changed something about the writing process. You know, when I wrote, for how long, where. None of them changed the thing I write with. So 8 experiments, and the tool has been sitting there the whole time, completely unchallenged. So it's time we try this thing. Pen, paper. The rules are simple, like always. 5 days, Monday to Friday. Everything in the novel will be written by hand, so no laptop, no Scrivener, no dictation. And I'm gonna be counting pages at the end of each day. Word count doesn't exist until Saturday, because on Saturday is when I'm gonna type it all up, and that's gonna be the day where I find out what I've actually made and if it's any useful, if it's any good. One more thing, because it matters whether this is a fair experiment, and I'm going into this whole thing when I'm in flow with my manuscript. I feel so much in flow. I've written over 88, I think, 1,000 words right now. I'm well past the midpoint, deep in the second half of Act 2, and there's no scene that I'm dreading right now. I'm just ready to keep going with the book. My predictions so far are that I'm gonna be slower per hour, and that's just physics. I type faster. Number 2 is that I'm gonna write more per day anyway, because I won't be able to unwrite anything. There's no backspace, so I think what makes me slow at drafting is how much I delete, but whether what I write survives transcription is another matter entirely. Number 3 is that so many writers say that handwriting quiets their inner critic, but I think mine is just gonna get louder. On a screen, a bad sentence just disappears, but on paper, it's just gonna sit there staring at me, and even if I cross it out, it's just gonna be a big mess, and I think that's gonna flare up my inner critic instead. Number 4 is that if this falls apart, it won't be my motivation that's lacking, it's gonna be my hand that's gonna be cramping up. And the 5th is that everything I write is just gonna feel more like a journal entry than actually the novel I'm writing. So let's see how this goes. Also, I finished this book yesterday. Yeah, yesterday morning. And the timing was quite impeccable because one of the bonus things that are in this Waterstones edition is an earlier chapter of the intro, of the opening. And there's just this one quote that I thought the timing was incredible for, where one of the characters says, "Writing stories by hand frees the mind to play and discover. The computer and the pen are two different instruments, and I prefer to play with the pen." And I find this just such amusing timing. I said 5 days. I made it 2. No wind up, no here's what I learned. I sat down for day 3 and I didn't pick up the pen. So that's where this is going. Let me tell you how I got here. Basically, I started writing and I just felt so disconnected. Every time I picked up this notebook to write, I felt like I was gonna be journaling. I felt like the words that were coming out on the page were falling flat, and I can't even find it. That's basically a summary of how it felt, but it felt like I was forcing myself into a structure that I didn't like. Like, I'd even have Scrivener open on my computer so I can refer to my outline, and then I'd write by hand, thinking that this would quiet down my inner critic, but instead it was just flaring it all up more and more and more, and I was not a fan. Not at all. I wrote on the first day, and I wrote 2.5 pages, and I felt utterly exhausted. Like, I didn't want to do anything for the rest of the day. I felt so depleted. I felt so down that I was just like, okay, I'm done for now. I'm gonna put this away and try again tomorrow. And I tried again the next day, and I had the exact same feeling when I finished it. And I think this isn't for me. After that, I basically decided to stop. I said, you know what? This is getting to the point where I could force myself through to persevere and get this done, or I could honor my creativity and listen to what my own muse or anything else is telling me and say, that's enough. I tried it, I tried this method, and it's not the right method for me, and that is okay. These experiments are experiments for a reason. They're an opportunity for me to try something that I wouldn't normally try. In those 2 days, I wrote 605 words, and for me, that's not very much. You've probably seen me in past experiments, and if you haven't, I'm gonna leave the playlist linked at the end, but you can see that I write a lot more than that in these experiments. I catch my flow. I love this connection to the story. And I was expecting the thing that would give up would be my hand, that it would cramp up and that it would stop me, but I never thought that what would stop me was just this. I was writing and I wanted to fall asleep. It all felt flat. It was terrible. Those 600 words, they weren't any good. They weren't bad, they weren't terrible, they were just there. They're present, they're filler, without a pulse. They feel like they're just there waiting to be rewritten. And that's fine. That's fine. This is a first draft, and I'm okay with the fact that this is all going to have to be rewritten in the second draft. I transcribed it all, and I'm going to keep moving forward from where I left off. The whole thought I had when I was going into this was that, yes, maybe I would write less, but I would write something deeper, more emotional, more vulnerable, but I didn't write deeper. I just wrote less, and that did not feel very good. The scene I was writing should have gutted me. It's one of those scenes that is slowly building up, where you have this sense of unease just building and building, and you expect to just feel so much compassion for my main character, for the people around her in this moment, and instead I was just there. I didn't connect. I was just moving pieces from A to B because they had to do this, and it didn't feel emotional, evocative. It didn't move me, and if it doesn't move me, it's definitely not going to move any reader. So yeah, writing by hand felt like it turned the scene into a task, like I had a checklist of things I had to write, and then it was just, there was no flow. So yeah, it felt like I was writing more of a journal entry than a novel. I kept every word I wrote. I just stuck it all in the manuscript, but it felt like this was a ramble, just a meander through a scene that didn't make any real progress or didn't add meaning for the characters. It is part of the novel. It moves me forward. I'm getting closer to my goal of finishing this soon, but Yeah, it's the kind of writing I already know I'm gonna cut. And the cost was just, now I feel like I'm in a bit of a rut. I feel like I don't want to face the rest of the story right now. I feel like I need to clear out this stuckness and then keep moving forward in Scrivener on my computer with my keyboard. So the thing I was hoping I'd get out of this, I definitely didn't get. I just got what I was afraid of. Creativity feels best when we're free and we're flowing and we're open, not when we're forcing ourselves into a mold that doesn't fit who we are and how we want to create. So I think stopping was just the right call for me. And I'd urge you, if you're taking on any experiment or trying a routine or feel something in your routine is just a little bit off, or very off in this case, I'd urge you to stop and re-examine it and allow yourself to change. And I think we need to honor the experiments that don't work just as much as the ones that do. And we have to be honest with ourselves about different things that we're doing, if they're working or not. We don't have to force ourselves into a box just because it sounds good on paper. I could have pushed through. I could have filmed 3 more days, hunched over a notebook, hating it and calling it discipline. And there's a part of me, you know, that perfectionist part of me, the one that just finishes everything she starts and who says, hey, I set out to do this and I'm gonna do it no matter what. And that part of me is going, you said 5 days, what are you, not capable of even doing 5 days? And sure, yeah, I am capable of it. I know that, but that's not the choice I want to make. I don't want to let that part of me win. I don't want to let that part of me be the one that crushes my own creativity. This whole channel is built about making creativity feel free. It's about making it easier, making it simpler, making it something that fits inside your actual life. And white knuckling through 5 days of something I hated would have been me doing exactly the thing that I'm opposed to. It would have been a disservice to myself and a disservice to anyone watching this. So I stopped. I stopped because I hated it, and it turns out that's more than a good enough reason to. The point was never to write this book by hand. The point was to try something out and see if it works for me, and not to have these blinders and expectations of what can and can't work. And this doesn't work for me, but it might work for you, and that is more than okay. If you'd like to try writing your novel by hand, do it. Experiment and see how that feels. Just don't force yourself to put your creativity under this pressure that will not forge diamonds, but instead will crush you and will lead to burnout faster than anything else. What we need is to feel free, to feel comfortable, to feel safe to create. So do that, but keep trying, keep experimenting, and figure out if something in your routine doesn't feel quite right, try something else. And that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna keep experimenting, and I'm gonna tell this journal, hey, it was nice trying this, but I'm done.